This sounds like the most hopeless attachment style.
Disorganized person has anxious tendencies, but it's please, please, please don't hurt me. Look, I'm being perfect. Or I will do anything you tell me to. I will be so perfect. Please don't hurt me. And when that doesn't work, the only place left to go is full shutdown, freeze.
Let's say you're with a partner like this. What do? You're recognizing these signs. You're recognizing the red flags where they're actually doing it for their own sake. They're always performing. They're overperforming. Your life is too good. Your house is too clean. Everything is too perfect. But at the same time, you feel like there's always this wall. You can't break through. You can't say anything. What do?
Welcome back to the I Wish You Knew podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Andre. Hello, Andre.
Hello, Adam.
This is a hard-hitting episode all about quiet, disorganized attachment style. Now, I'm going to warn you, this one is going to be hard to listen to. The first half, it's very hard-hitting, but I want you to stick with it because the second half, it shows you the way, and it shows you exactly why you have hope for the best life you've never imagined. So if you have quiet, disorganized attachment style, if you know somebody who is quiet, disorganized, or if you just have someone in your life who's living in a lot of fear, this is the episode for you.
This is probably the most pressing question we get in our comments.
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's what it is. Why is quiet, disorganized the most isolating of all attachment styles?
It really is. When I get coaching clients in who have quiet, disorganized attachment style, they have the loneliest stories you can possibly imagine. Some of them have been married multiple times. Some of them have children. They still feel so alienated from everybody around them.
Is it because they're the problem or the partner's the problem?
It's a little bit of everything. Now, unfortunately, with quiet, disorganized attachment style, they don't know what anybody wants from them, and they don't know that they can ask. So they spend their entire life terrified that somebody somewhere has unmet expectations and that they're going to do something wrong about it. So they're frozen, they're silent, they are completely isolated from everyone around them, even in a crowded room, even in bed with their spouse, even if they're holding their child in their arms, they are still disconnected from people.
Okay, so you mentioned divorce.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think that somebody like that doesn't get divorced. They just stick it out.
They don't usually get divorced because they want to. They tend to stick it out. They are obsessively monogamous, and they will put up with almost every problem you can imagine. They only end relationships if it gets so outrageous that even they finally say this is simply unsustainable, or more likely their partner files for divorce on them after 10, 15, 20, even 30 years, and they get left behind and wonder why.
So what exactly makes them so invisible?
That's a great question, Andre. It's not just that they're invisible. It's that the field of psychology as an entire entity has failed to even notice or observe them over the last 80 years of attachment work. There has never been anybody really seeing this style because outwardly, they are the ultimate performers. I don't mean they're fake. They perform at such a high level, usually, financially, survivability, and they never, ever complain. It doesn't matter how much pain or fear they are in, they never complain. Because in childhood, they're taught that complaining just gets you punished more.
So tell me this a little bit differently. You say the field of psychology has failed them. That's a very big statement.
I know.
Can you rationalize that?
Absolutely. So in the field of psychology, right, I was a licensed marriage and family therapist for many, many years. I specialized in severe extreme traumas. These individuals, they come in and they are afraid and they're closed off and they don't know what to do, but they have such depths of compassion and desire to want to connect with other people, but they're so afraid. They often get misdiagnosed as, hey, you're fine, you're functioning, get back out there, stop complaining. Or even worse, a therapist might dig into what they feel and say, well, you're closed off. You're afraid of judgment, afraid of being controlled. And you go back and forth between anxious and avoidant behaviors. Well, I think the only thing that matches is a personality disorder.
Oh, interesting.
They get often misdiagnosed with personality disorders, even though they don't actually match the criteria at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the closest thing that might semi-fit. So the field of psychology does overwhelming damage to these people when they go into therapy. They're not only misunderstood, they're usually harmed.
And what type of personality disorders are we talking about?
Everything from antisocial personality disorder to schizoid personality disorder, even sometimes borderline personality disorder. They get misdiagnosed even though they never do the harmful, destructive behaviors, simply because they have the feelings that match those things.
Okay, okay. Which actually does make me wonder, is this also maybe relevant to like being introverted or extroverted as just really introverted?
Introversion really is the way that you recharge from activities, right? Introverts tend to love self-guided things, self-paced activities. They recharge that way, but they can still fully enjoy going out and being with people. Now, if you speaking to the cashier at your local grocery store sends you into panic attack spirals or has you exhausted for 3 days, that's not being an introvert. That is a trauma response.
And what is it that you're traumatized by?
Well, in the case of Quiet Disorganized style, they are traumatized by parents who are both unsafe and demanding. So they wanted to go toward their parent to get love and connection and safety, but couldn't because their parent was the most unsafe thing in their life. So it creates a confusion between I will never, ever, ever be safe and also usually you will aggressively pursue me and demand perfection. So they go deep inside, they lock down, they cover up, and they never let anyone see what they ever feel again.
And when you say unsafe, does it mean violent? Does it mean abusive?
It
What does it
can
mean?
it can mean that. Most of my Quiet Disorganized clients have the most brutal childhood stories you can imagine, and they rattle them off like they're describing a movie they saw last week. They simply note that there were these horrific, agonizing experiences again and again and again and again, and they almost sound bored discussing it. Many of them actually say, but don't think they're bad. I'm not saying they're a bad person, with this endless list of atrocities that their parent had inflicted on them. And they don't recognize how brutal their story is. They think it's normal. That's why their nervous system adapts the way it does.
Okay, so walk me through the development of a quiet, disorganized person from childhood to, say, adulthood.
Sure, let's take the most common piece. A very loud, angry, controlling, domineering, gaslighting father who explodes into rage whenever anybody in the home is not completely giving into everything he wants, who rewards her, though, maybe if it's a daughter, rewards her with affection when she stays perfectly in the narrow little lane that he ascribes to her. She has to do everything perfect and be brilliant and be thoughtful and be constantly catering to his emotions. And if she ever says or does anything out of line, he explodes. Or, and I've seen this before, he does all of that exploding at her mother and her brother, but she herself, she is so perfect at all times and so controlled that she never pulls his rage. And that's her whole personality, is being perfect, being quiet, having no needs and no desires and no feelings ever.
Okay, so this is at what age?
From birth. Let's say up to 12.
Okay.
It's so deep, in fact, that they actually shut down their ability to show facial expressions. They have what we call a flat affect. Their face goes completely blank the moment they feel anything. And that includes happiness, by the way, because people in their house probably got punished for being happy. Excessive happiness when the parent is not happy leads to, you're betraying me right now biochemically by being too happy when I'm not. How dare you do this to me? So they flatten down. They actually dissociate from their own emotions. Their prefrontal cortex overdevelops and squashes their ability to feel their own emotions or display their own emotions. So they always just look flat and disinterested, even when they're terrified.
Okay. Is this any similar to the loud, disorganized style you talk about?
This
Just
is
the opposite?
This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this one,
Okay.
right? Because the audience, they ask all the time, Adam, what's disorganized? What's loud? What's quiet? Let's break this down and make it very simple. In the old days, they used to have something called fearful avoidant style, which people were utterly confused about because most avoidant people are afraid of something. And before that, it was simply disorganized style because quiet disorganized was invisible. Fearful avoidant / regular disorganized, in this case, loud disorganized, as I've named it, is explosive. It's external. It's obvious. It's that child who, in their household, when the parent was exploding, they exploded back.
Mhm.
They fought back. They pushed back. They took control. They threw tantrums. They broke things.
So it's the high conflict household.
Absolutely. It's this concept of you can't fire me because I quit. That's loud disorganized, and they self-sabotage in their relationships. They destroy their romantic relationships before the other person can leave them. Usually at the height of bonding and intimacy, that's when they're most afraid. Loud disorganized is explosive and fast and passionate on the outside. Quiet disorganized is like a glacier with a heart on the inside. I get asked all the time, what is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? So I have finally launched the attachment assessment. This is not a short quiz that just spits out an answer after 3 seconds. This is a thorough, in-depth, science-backed assessment. Check it out on my website, adamlanesmith.com, and learn your attachment style, the severity of what you're dealing with, and some next steps you can take right now to build very secure attachment.
Okay, so let's say that quiet disorganized, you're getting to about age 12, you're performing, you're being the good kid, you're getting good grades, you're quite easy, you're quiet to get along with.
Obsessive perfectionist at
Obsessive,
school,
okay.
sobbing uncontrollably secretly in your room if you get an A instead of an A+. It is desperate terror when you have to speak to somebody in class turns to you and asks you a question and you freeze because you don't know how to answer. It is somebody at school asked to be your friend and you just stare at them because you're so locked up and now they think you're a jerk. It is going home and just locking yourself in your room and reading books quietly under the covers, hoping your parents don't come in and speak to you.
Mhm.
It is shut down and guarded and closed off.
And then what happens during the teenage years, maybe getting into college? What do they look like? How does their life develop? What do they become?
You know, these people, they tend to date only when somebody else intrudes on their life and informs them that they are now dating. There's a meme out there of, do you have a girlfriend? No. Well, you do now, right?
Mm.
That's their experience when somebody comes in and intrudes hard enough to say, oh, you're not disconnected, you're frozen. And I could take advantage of that. They tend to find the most unkind dating partners in their teens and 20s and so on. And so they get informed that they are now in a relationship, so they try to please other people. In fact, whenever someone intrudes, they please others. They might get their first job, second job, go to college, and continue pleasing their professors or their boss or whoever's around them. They live a life of service to others, pulling away whenever possible to be by themselves, because that's the only time they ever feel at peace.
Is this mostly women who fall into this or men as well?
You know, it's both. It is
Really?
both, very much so.
What's the proportion?
Well, and here's what's fascinating is when we discover a new mental health challenge, we always find it in women first because men don't complain about it and they're even more hidden and secret. I do know that there are quite a few quiet, disorganized men out there. It's just that they are so deep into it that they aren't even seeking help. Quiet, disorganized women at least are eventually in their 50s, 60s, and 70s starting to come out and say, hey, something's not right. I'm not as happy as everyone tells me I should be. Is it possible there's an answer? The men in this category don't ever reach that place. So we're having a hard time reaching them at all.
Well, in this case, next question is even more important. We get this a lot. How do you recognize quiet, disorganized attachment in yourself?
I love this question. Self-diagnostic, right?
Sure.
If
How else would you know, right? Because if nobody's going to tell you,
Yeah.
and there's no signs, and you're just so busy and you're so occupied serving, protecting, helping, delivering, eventually you're going to have to get some triggers. What are these triggers?
Yeah. Usually one of the first triggers for I might be quiet disorganized is they think they have anxious a style or they think they have avoidant style, but it doesn't fit perfectly. You know, I kind of feel like I'm anxious sometimes, but sometimes I feel like I might be a little avoidant. Or they might just say, I'm very avoidant, but I'm so compassionate and I've been in this 30-year marriage and I try so hard to please people. When I hear that depth of childhood trauma and pain, that's when I start flagging for it. But usually there's some awareness that they're off somewhere. It's when they are so afraid of doing the wrong things that they experience what we call a dorsal vagal shutdown. Their vagus nerve begins to shut down hard and it prevents them from being able to share or talk hardly at all. Broca's area in their brain shuts down the speech center and it creates selective mutism in some experiences. So selective mutism is one thing that I really look for. Those shutdowns and an inability to speak. Those are big. We have the fight, flight, fawn, and freeze response, the 4 Fs of the limbic system, all right, like stress response. The fight response exists when you think you can actually fight with success. That was beaten out of them in childhood. Fighting.
That's the loud disorganized, I guess. They
Loud
got the fight.
disorganized dive into that, yes. The loud disorganized alternate between fighting and fawning and fighting and fawning and fighting and fawning.
So it's like fight, repair, fight, repair, fight, repair, right?
It's not even real repair, but yes, fawning for repair, like, okay, come back, please. Quiet disorganized, fight was beaten out of them. Flee is sometimes there, but they know that their parent usually chased them down relentlessly. So fleeing is also very difficult. They do it when they can, but it's not always available.
So this is interesting too. You say their parents chases them down, but that could also be your sibling, right? Maybe if they've witnessed violence against your sibling or high conflict family, see that, you don't even have to be the target of that behavior in order to develop the quiet disorganized style.
This is the ultimate learned helplessness. You have learned that even being close to other humans is so damaging that your system gives up. It doesn't even try to hardly protect you as much anymore. Now, you might flee, and that's running away, staying disconnected. You might flee, but when people speak to you, you've seen that relentless machine chase people down, so then you go into a fawning state. And it's similar to an anxious person fawning, right? A quiet disorganized person has anxious tendencies, but it's please, please, please don't hurt me. Look, I'm being perfect, or I will do anything you tell me to. I will be so perfect. Please don't hurt me.
Okay.
And when that doesn't work, the only place left to go is full shutdown, freeze. The system that we have is designed to protect you from existential level threats, hunter-gatherer style.
Okay.
Right.
So walk me through this as if this was, you. What would you experience? Can you narrate that experience?
Absolutely. Should we take it from the perspective of a woman?
Right. So let's say, okay, so this is a lot of women who experience this. If there is, say, a fight or a conflict or criticism at home, what happens?
I had a client with a conflict like this recently, right? She was wanting to get married to an individual who turned out to be very avoidant. So he had a lot of demands. And she was just trying to endlessly cater to him without ever stopping to ask if it was even reasonable. So he would give her something he wanted, and she would, and it felt too much, but she couldn't say that. Now, fight was beaten out of her long ago, so she has no fight. She can't flee because she wants the relationship and she wants the closeness. So flight is also just it's gone. All that's left for her, if she's going to do anything, is to fawn. Just give in, give him everything he wants. And if she can't, give other additional things to try to compensate for what's not good enough. And when that's not good enough for him, because he wants the outcome, he wants the results, and he doesn't actually want the emotional connection at all, the only place left is freeze. So she would just freeze. She couldn't ask questions. She couldn't gain understanding. She couldn't push back. She couldn't negotiate. She would just stare at him. She would simply stare at him with her mouth closed and go into a dormant state. And he was interpreting that as she's refusing to answer. She's stonewalling me. She thinks she's too good for me. She doesn't care about me. Look at this. Like, why would I work with you? And she was just utterly frozen on the inside. And she actually wouldn't know how she felt till a week later.
What are the maybe 3 things you need to notice in yourself and have the red flag go up that you might be experiencing quiet disorganized attachment?
Are you obsessively people-pleasing other people from a place of safety? And I don't just mean like an anxious person. I don't want to be abandoned. I mean existential safety. If I don't please them, I will be destroyed.
Is that fear? You're supposed to, do you feel fear at interactions?
Overwhelming fear.
Overwhelming
fear.
There we got it. So overwhelming fear. If you're feeling overwhelming fear over what?
Over expectations.
Ah.
And the second one is very similar to it, but importantly distinct, confusion. If you are constantly confused in your relationships, you can't even begin to guess what people want, but you also can't ask them. So you're just stuck in a swamp of confusion all the time. It never gets better.
Okay. What else?
Like we talked about, if you shut down, the shutdown is very characteristic of this one. Now, an avoidant person will shut down emotionally, but they'll still say, and they become dismissive when they shut down. I'm talking a full system shutdown where you can't speak, you can't dismiss, you lock up, and you simply turn into a statue of yourself with your brain turned off and stare at the wall.
Hmm. What happens to your nervous system then?
Oh, it's fried. It is fried. This is one of the most brutal attachment styles for nervous systems and for health in general.
Tell me more.
So remember that your nervous system dictates the quality of health in your body. When your nervous system is in stress mode, it's in short-term survival mode. That tends to turn off most parts of your immune system. It cancels out your wound healing. It stops destroying cancer cells that generate in your body. We have those all the time. When your system's compromised, they can get stronger and stronger and then actually create what we would consider cancer and tumors. Remember that your fertility cycle is based on having long-term health. So short-term health shuts off or diminishes your fertility. You might have massive allergy attacks and autoimmune disorders because your body can't handle any level of stress in addition to the constant chronic burnout that it's feeling. Uh, Sexual reproduction and behaviors like that, there's zero pleasure in sex whatsoever for these women.
What do you mean there's zero pleasure in sex? Like, how do they stay in relationships if there's no sexual pleasure, but they're still monogamous?
Oh, she doesn't have to feel pleasure to have sex with a partner.
Oh, what do they
No.
feel instead?
A sense of duty and disappointment and physical discomfort, which they grit their teeth and get through.
That sounds awful.
It is awful. It's awful for them, but they won't complain about it. They won't hardly even talk about it. They think it's normal, and they just do it to placate their partner and try to
And
make them happy.
is that a hormonal issue or what is that?
It often is. So when you have that fried nervous system, your estrogen levels are usually crushingly low. You have period problems, menstrual issues, I should say. You might have PCOS. There are so many issues that a woman can have in this, but the biggest one I will say is that she has crushingly low oxytocin because her oxytocin receptors, not always, but quite often are blocked. And if they are opened, they are constantly being swamped by the flood of cortisol, which fights your oxytocin anyway. So you get some, you crash. You get some, you crash. So her ability to experience sexual pleasure or orgasm or anything like that is diminished. And when I say diminished, I should say cratered into the ground. I know that a lot of the people watching this show right now have had attachment issues for their entire life. That's why I want to invite every single one of you to check out my attachment repair program. It just might be the jump that you need to go from insecurely attached and lonely and frustrated to fully secure, connected, and bonded in a great relationship like nothing you've ever felt before. Check out my website, adamlanesmith.com, for the attachment repair program.
Yeah.
Those women usually find their own sexual pleasure and that problem of I don't feel good, they find it to be a self-failing. They actually blame themselves for not enjoying it enough because they feel like they're ruining sex for their partner by not enjoying it enough. But it's a secret shame that they carry on the inside.
How do you talk to them about that shame?
I form a relationship and coaching enough to ask them about their sex life. And then I say, may I ask you a personal question? And they say yes. And I say, look, is sex an awful experience for you? And you can tell me, like, I know you love your partner, but is it awful? And they usually say, well, I mean, I do it. Yeah. And I hear that. What is it like for you? Well, I do it. I try to make them happy. Okay. Is it dry? Is it stretching? Is it squeezed so that there's no entry? That's called vaginismus, by the way. Is it very difficult? Does it just feel overstimulating like sandpaper on your skin? Are all your nerves screaming in an unpleasant, overstimulated kind of way when you're having that experience? Is your partner closing out quickly and trying to get the job done like he can't get out fast enough? Are you just confused and frozen the whole time? Are you almost dissociating from the experience, like hoping it's over quick? That's what I tend to ask them. And for many of them, that's the case. And they could be in a marriage for 30 years like that. That's
Wow.
one reason most of them don't have more than one child if they have any children at all.
That's kind of dreary.
It's
Very
it is.
dreary.
I will say this. Most of them are so partner focused that they do it anyway because they care deeply about the warmth and love for those around them. Yes, it's performance, but they actually legitimately care about and love the people in their life. So they're giving them what they think is a gift.
So I think right now there's a lot of people, a lot of women probably listening to this and maybe finding some similarities or maybe a lot of similarities to what they're experiencing, in which case they definitely should keep listening. But what about their partners? Is this something that you need to pay attention to if you suspect that your partner might be quite disorganized? Because this is probably one area where those people can be helped.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I will say this. Partners of quiet, disorganized people are usually very frustrated
Ah.
because it looks like two things. One, it either looks like their partner doesn't care because their partner won't explain the problem, won't seek solutions, won't work with them, won't acknowledge that there are problems, won't change or improve, and doesn't seem to want anything to get better at all. They seem to accept the bare minimum, and they seem to keep repeating the same problems over and over and over forever. Number one. So it looks like they legitimately don't care. And number two, if it does look like they care, in those moments when the partner might push and then the quiet, disorganized person bursts into tears because they say, please don't leave me. That's the final thing that breaks through their frozen response. Please don't leave me. I'll do anything. They flip back to obsessive fawning because freeze isn't even working. Then it's frustrating because you go on the same roller coaster over and over where they break through in that moment to tell you what they feel, but it's like seeing your spouse once a year.
Mhm.
For 2 hours, you get to have an honest, vulnerable discussion with your spouse about how they actually feel, and it's bleak and dark and miserable, and then they'll shut down again for another year until you can't handle it anymore and they have to blow up, and it's this constant process of I never see the real you except once a year, and
Mm.
that's also exhausting. It sucks to be with a person who's always performing.
And I guess that's also why they could be even driven to increase conflict. Because if they learn, I'm assuming that if we have a fight where you break, that's the only time you come out.
Yeah.
That does that not increase the probability of conflict?
It does, and especially because, us men, right?
Mhm.
If there's a conflict, Andre, right? We men, we push on each other.
Sure.
We push it to its max. It breaks. Now we have an opportunity to fix. Women don't usually work that way. It's not the right approach to push a woman till she breaks and then try to resolve it. And especially if she's that overwhelmed with trauma, all that's going to do is destroy her nervous system even
Right.
further.
I can imagine that doesn't really quite help the intimacy and everything else.
No, it's just an additional 15 pieces of trauma over 15 years of marriage. So now she's the ultimate trauma.
Yikes. Okay, so you got this potentially quite disorganized partner, right? So you need to push on them in order for them to open up. They open up, it's always breaking through. What about things like resentment? Do they gather resentment like the anxious types?
You know what's fascinating? They
Mm.
don't.
No resentment at all?
Not really.
Okay.
They'll have lack of satisfaction that they may someday when they're 50 or 60 realize.
Hmm.
There's almost no resentment whatsoever because their brain says, I am responsible for everyone else's actions toward me. So if someone does something that hurts me, or if they fail the
Probably
case,
blame
whatever,
themselves.
it's my fault.
Mhm.
I didn't perform. I only got an A plus instead of an A plus plus,
Hmm.
right? That's my fault. And they don't really become resentful people, even with the worst trauma. Remember that from their childhood, they expect, I won't even say them on here because the censors would destroy this episode in a minute, but they expect the worst, most brutal human experiences to be normal. And so
Yikes.
anything less than that is acceptable and okay.
So basically, this sounds like the most hopeless attachment style above all else. That people with this attachment style have already given up on everything. They've come to the conclusion that this is the way life is and is just always going to be like this, and that everybody's always going to leave them. They're afraid of doing anything wrong. They don't want to change anything because they're afraid of messing up, and they're so busy performing and taking care of everybody else that they have no interest in improving any aspect of their life that isn't tied to that performance. Is that correct?
Almost all of it's correct. One thing I'll change is that it's not that they're afraid people will leave them necessarily. Their biggest fear is that people will punish them. People will stay and punish them. A lot of the women I talk to with this style, they actually say it's almost a relief when someone leaves because now
Mm.
I don't have to perform anymore. Yeah, they definitely they don't like losing a partner, but being alone is almost a relief again.
Wow. Okay. So let's say you're with a partner like this. What do? You're recognizing these signs, you're recognizing the red flags, you're seeing that the partner has no interest in intimacy, where they're actually doing it for their own sake.
Mhm.
Let's say that you see that they're always performing, they're overperforming. Your life is too good, your house is too clean, everything is too perfect. But at the same time, you feel like there's always this wall you can't break through. You can't say anything. What do you do?
the brutal truth,
Yes.
the really brutal truth, you have to establish clear expectations for what you're willing to settle for in the relationship if you're their partner. And that doesn't mean like they have to perform at a certain level for you. They are so trapped in their own head of trying to guess what you want, and it's all performance driven and task driven and look this way, act this way, sound this way, do this thing for you, cook you this meal, do your shirts this way. They are so driven down to that it hasn't even entered their mind what closeness could look like. It hasn't entered their mind that you want to learn about them. It hasn't entered their mind that the conversations about their desires are fruitful to you. It hasn't entered their mind that they have anything inside their head that you would even want to hear. So sitting them down and being abundantly clear that you want a personality behind the tasks that they're doing, that you desire them as a human, and then letting them know, I am not saying I'm leaving you, but my ability to be in this relationship is going to diminish over time because I will be emotionally starving until you are providing this to me in our relationship. And then you say, I also understand you're in a trauma cycle and that it's not as simple as just get over it and do it. But I'm starving, and you are, and frankly, you are too. Are you willing to address this so that we can stay together, or are we simply going to starve to death here while watching each other?
And how does this conversation usually go?
It's very tough because very few people ever even reach the realization that, like I said, I had to figure this out myself after 80 years of attachment science.
Nice.
Okay. I had to figure all this out on my own because no one else had flagged this yet. So in the research I've done so far with my coaching clients and in the work my team has done with these clients as well, we've served a lot of these people and their partners now. The conversations, they are challenging, right? The person tends to freeze during the conversation. But when you give them objective things to begin doing, when you give them objective targets, when you teach them how to do those things, that's when they begin to change. Right? You and I have been working on this methodology for a long time about skills and experiences. The real problem with quiet disorganized attachment style is that they have zero skills relating to secure relationships. Every single skill they have is for insecure relationships where the other person is a sociopath. So they live their life as if they are surrounded by sociopaths, and they are constantly deploying skills that would please a sociopath. Now, when you're their partner, it feels awful to be treated like a sociopath, and you're both emotionally starving at the same time. So they need to learn the skill sets necessary to be in a securely attached relationship. That's pleasing themselves and pleasing the other person. You can't please a secure person the way you would please a sociopath. It's a lot of skill training.
There's something that sounds very confusing to me. It sounds like this person in this position is trying to be caring and loving and connecting and all of these things, perfect in so many ways. But that's all coming from a fear root. And in a way, it's almost self-serving, right? Because it sounds like they're removing their actual self and they're presenting something else, almost kind of like a swap, a trick of sorts, right? And that to me sounds like that'll be confusing for their partner and for themselves.
Yeah, it's confusing doesn't even begin to cover it. It is so confusing that when they try to square that, they can't. They freeze. Their brain turns off.
So that's the freeze response where they're trying to match how am I both, right?
It's a whole dissociation. Their brain just shuts down even trying to go down that avenue. It just turns off.
Is that selfish of them?
So that thinking right there that you just stated is actually one of the most damaging things that somebody can say back to someone with quiet disorganized or think about them. So why are you going there?
What do you mean?
Well, taking somebody who's such an overwhelming, extreme angle of constant trauma and fear and performance and pleasing other people, and then saying that they're being selfish by covering it up is actually one of the most destructive things that you can do. And many partners of disorganized people do that because it certainly feels selfish. You are refusing to give me love, right? I make it so easy for you and you refuse. But a freeze response removes willpower. It actually removes their ability even to make a decision. This is not a conscious decision these people are doing. They're saying, wow, I really wish I could click, and it's gone.
It's like a TV turning off.
It's off. It's not even on standby. It's gone. So their willpower is gone. Their ability to make decisions, gone. I couldn't hold them accountable for those things that they do.
So why do others? So if you can't hold them accountable, why is there so much conflict in those relationships, and why do they never get better?
Well, two reasons. One, because they tend to partner up with the most either avoidant or very disorganized or personality disordered individuals who usually have very rigid expectations, who usually want a little bit of a blank slate they can paint upon. And that's attractive at first, but it's not attractive after a long period of time, right? I want you to be what I have been looking for, and so I'm going to mold you into it. That's usually what their partners walk in saying. So then they can't do that because they're a human being. They're not a canvas. So that goes poorly. And number two, most people have no idea that this is even happening. From the outside, it just looks like cold, stubborn refusal.
Got it. So that's the triggering part. And I'm assuming especially for avoidance, and especially if they're coming in from more of an anxious dynamic, that probably just adds an additional trigger, right?
Let's bump that up a notch. Avoidant people have the highest focus of I will act. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
You're a formal avoidant man.
Sure.
Right? I am always responsible for my choices, and there is always something I can do, and it's always down to me. And I will never turn off because I must always push through. That's that avoidant motto.
It's very difficult. I'm going to say impossible, but very difficult imagining shutting down to the extent in a place that's safe. I mean, it's not like you're, sitting there in a dark alley with a gun to your head. Then you could say, okay, I can understand why you're shut down, but you're supposed to be at home with somebody you love.
Right. Total, absolute loss of control. Right. So let's take a step back here. Do you know the experiment that they did where they took dogs and put them in electrified cages?
Yes.
Yeah.
With a bell, right? Or there's like a buzzer or something.
No,
it's a different
This one was so much worse.
One.
Oh, this was so much worse. For people at home, if you're squeamish, you might want to skip the next minute or two because this is brutal. So they took dogs, two groups of dogs, and they put them in electrified cages. And this is just about as bad as you're imagining right now. One group of dogs, they shocked them when they did a certain set of behaviors. If they touched the water dish, if you stood in this corner, if you did this, it was very predictable. It was always the same. This group of dogs would get shocked only during those conditions, okay? The other group of dogs would be shocked completely and totally at random. There was no pattern to it. They had to, and they would just spin around in their cages trying to figure it out. Now, as the experiment went on, what they found was the dogs who were shocked in predictable patterns would just learn it very quickly. Pain is a good teacher, and then avoid it. Okay. And when they opened the door at the end of the experiment, the dogs would run out happy and everything was fine. They had no long-term damage. The other group of dogs that were shocked completely at random, at first their anxiety levels would go way up as they frantically ran around trying to figure out what not to do. As it got worse, their anxieties went to panic and danger levels, and then their system overloaded, and they collapsed to the floor and laid there and continued being shocked without even responding anymore. Then when the researchers turned off the electricity and opened the doors, the dogs wouldn't leave. They simply laid on the floor of the electrified cage, not even trying to escape. They gave up completely.
Gave up entirely.
They gave up completely. And this is what we call learned helplessness. In childhood, they were wounded so often with no predictable pattern, except for I wasn't perfect enough. So there was never any hope, no escape. Fight was beaten out of them. Even flight was beaten out of them. There's fawning and then collapsing and freezing. The freeze response is designed to prevent damage. If you're mauled by a grizzly bear, right? Lay down, play dead is usually what people say, right? That's what this is. I can't fight the bear. I can't run away from the bear. I have nothing the bear wants to leave me alone. I will curl up in a ball and just survive the damage for as long as I can. That's what this is.
So if your partner is somebody like this, they feel like they're living with a bear.
Constantly.
And this is both women and men?
Yes.
So I could envision this for a woman. And, obviously it brings out a lot of feelings of compassion and also just sadness because it's such a difficult experience. But I'm struggling to imagine a man in that circumstance. What is that like?
A man shutting down through quiet disorganized or a man being the partner?
No, a man shutting down with quiet disorganized. So if you're a woman and you're with a quiet disorganized man, what does that dynamic look like?
Oh, man. Many times those men don't get into relationships with any women except the most brutally personality disordered, unfortunately, because those women find these men and then harvest them.
harvest.
Yes. You will
Oof.
now be my worker ant, and I am the bee, and you will serve me in every way. You will jump through every hoop. You will always please me, and I will mistreat you and disrespect you continuously, cheat on you continuously. You are my slave.
That sounds very bleak.
It very much is bleak.
It sounds like even worse than like an anxious avoidant or loud disorganized
S-
relationship.
I can't even begin to tell you the trauma and agony that those partners go through.
So is it always the case that those women are so abusive, like it's not even worth having this conversation?
Not always. I will say once or twice in my career, I have encountered a situation where there was a woman who maybe was more anxiously attached,
Mhm.
connected to a quiet, disorganized man because she thought he was avoidant.
Once or twice?
Once or twice. It's very
In
rare.
how many years?
14, 15, 16 years. I've been
Wow.
doing this a long time.
Yeah.
It's hard to even keep track at this point. It's very rare. It may be more prevalent than we realize. It's just that it's always unnoticed.
Sure.
But those women tend to say, I don't understand why he's so locked down. They usually say he's avoidant, but he says some things about himself that is just really low self-esteem. And that's not how avoidant men usually are described. Can he be both?
Like self-esteem issues is a sign.
Low self-esteem, low self-boundaries. He doesn't push back on other people. He can't say no to people. He has no resentment. He's almost just like a cardboard cutout who just pleases everyone around him and has nothing else. He lives to serve those around him with nothing else.
Wow. Okay. So you have this person, mostly women, I'm assuming in this circumstance, sometimes men, and they look at you as if you're their partner, like you're a bear about to eat them.
At all times.
times.
Because you said, oh, hey, did you wash my shirt yet? And it's the
Okay.
bear coming to kill them.
Oh, got it. So there comes the punishment. There comes the anger. There is the you're gonna hate me. This is the word I'm curious about. Disappointment. I've heard this word used in many different relationships, mostly in the anxious
Mhm,
ones.
mhm.
Is there disappointment that plays into this space too?
Disappointment equals death.
Got it.
Because their caregivers were not capable of expressing sadness. They were not capable of expressing mild disappointment. They were not capable of expressing, oh, well, that sucks. That's oh, you didn't have time to wash my shirt? Oh, man, well, that sucks. Okay, I'll pick a different one. You didn't wash my shirt? Don't you realize how? That's the response.
Got it.
And then explosion from there. So if you ask, if there's a man out there with a wife who's quite disorganized and he says, hey, sweetheart, did you wash my shirt? Instantly, her eyes go like this. The pupils dilate, her nostrils flare, she tenses, and she begins to stutter, explaining how she didn't have time to wash your shirt because she was doing these 17 other things she thought you wanted, and then flees from the room to throw herself on the shirt to run to the washing machine as fast as possible and begin scrubbing it, trying to get it ready while furiously apologizing and avoiding eye contact because she's afraid you're going to attack her. Meanwhile, all you did was say, well, if you didn't wash that shirt, I have another shirt.
And how would an anxious woman respond, for example? Just so that draw
Just
the
a
line
purely
between the
anxious
two.
woman?
Yeah.
She might say, oh, no, I'm so sorry. No, I didn't. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that okay? Are you mad? And she'll check in like that.
So are you mad and apologizing versus just like
Apologizing.
complete panic?
Complete panic, barely able to speak, right? Avoiding eye contact. They do that, the primate gesture of even tucking their shoulder away and washing. So if you attack them, you'll hit their shoulder instead of their organs, all of that.
Wow. That sounds like not just even a difficult situation. It's almost like a hopeless situation.
It feels hopeless for many of them when they come to me. Yeah.
Okay. But they do come to you.
Oh, absolutely. Me and my team, we work with a lot of these individuals now. Now that we've isolated this and we've really found it, I hesitate to say discovered, but now that we've really pulled this out and can find these people now, we work with a lot of these individuals.
When you say work with, it sounds like you guys are working towards some form of resolution or an outcome. What do you work with them on?
Absolutely. So they come in feeling absolutely hopeless. And by working with us, sometimes 10, 12 sessions, depending on what they need, we train them in all those skills they've been missing. Remember I said earlier, the only skills they have is to please sociopaths?
Sure.
They have zero skills for actual relationships. We have to train them in all of those skills and show them how to not be utterly afraid every moment. So then what happens is they begin to feel relief. They begin to feel connected. They begin to feel hope. Yeah, they're still nervous, but they find that joy of intimacy. Andre, you know that moment when someone that you love gives you a big hug and you actually relax into it?
Sure.
These people don't feel that. They're trying to
Okay.
make the hug good for the other person.
It's just like hugging a board.
It's like hugging a board.
Hmm.
Very rarely, should I say, do they really know what that connection feels like. After working together with us, they finally feel relaxed in their relationships. They can finally feel safe. They know the bear is living outside, that their partner is not the bear. Now they feel
Oh, so
safe
you
with them.
decouple the partner from the bear.
Completely. One thing we teach them is there are different types of people, and you can differentiate between them. This one's dangerous. Be afraid. Lock them out. This one is safe. Connect, share, speak. And when that happens, Broca's area, that speech center, no longer disconnects. They can actually speak and continue speaking.
So in this case, walk me through then the roadmap towards becoming secure.
Mhm.
Because I guess what you do is you actually turn them secure. Let me
the job.
even start with a question. Can a full-on, quiet, disorganized person actually end up being secure?
Yes.
So that is possible, because it sounds like that is like the worst place from an attachment standpoint, from a trust standpoint to be. And even then, I'm going to say carefully, recovery
Mhm.
or transformation is possible.
Mhm. It's not just possible. It is fascinating to watch because the transformation is so complete. What's wonderful about quiet, disorganized people is the experiences are so opposite between extreme, overwhelming fear and terror and secure attachment that they can't stop halfway. They want to go the entire journey. When they see that world open before them, they want everything, and they really chase after it harder than almost anybody else does.
Okay. So walk me through then this transformation that I would experience if I was
Yep.
quite disorganized.
Absolutely. So first, always is awareness.
Mhm.
Awareness that you have this pattern. Awareness of exactly how it works. Awareness that
Which pattern?
the quiet disorganized pattern, the freeze pattern,
Okay.
the overwhelming fear. Awareness that you have it and beginning naming those feelings. Number two is awareness that what you're feeling is not, quote, normal. This is not a common average experience, and it's not what you should be feeling in most relationships. This is abnormal, and you are in an abnormal extreme survival state. Okay? Which means there's another state you should be in most of the time, which is a thriving state, a normal thriving state.
So number 3 is defining what that is.
Defining it and showing it to them. They have to begin experiencing it. That usually experiences component is important. Usually we do a lot of nervous system work at this point so they can start feeling their nervous system calm down, sometimes for the first time in their life. I had one client that I started doing that nervous system work with, and she burst into tears halfway through the session because it felt dangerous to even relax. We had to push
Even
through
on a
that.
Zoom call.
Even on a Zoom call.
Wow.
It's just sobbing uncontrollably because it felt so unsafe to relax because something bad could happen.
And when you say that you do this work, like what's the, I guess, secret sauce? Like questions, is it like exercises, breathing? Like what do you do to get somebody out of this complete fear lockdown and into the present?
Well, first we have to teach them that it's even possible. But once they believe that it's possible, there's a lot of body work and muscle
Body
work
work.
that they need to do. Body work and muscle work is very important. There's breath work that they have to specifically do to activate the vagus nerve in their chest. It's best activated through breathing and stretching is some of the best things you can do. Being aware of what experiences they're actually having though in their mind and what their mind is doing is very important. As they're beginning to do that, they have awareness of it. Now, what we do next is find one safe person in their life. We call this their asset. This
Mhm.
is your asset. This is your other human. Okay. I have them go to that other human and begin explaining the experiences they're having to that other human under this context. I probably have looked disinterested in you in the past. You probably felt like I didn't care. I'm only beginning to realize that that's how I've come across. Is that how I have seemed? And the other person goes, yeah. Okay. I just want you to know I very much do care. I've never wanted to intrude on you before by forcing my care on you. So I want you to know I care. And going forward, I want to learn more about what you want from me so that I can give you that love. having this conversation is utterly terrifying. But the point of calming her nervous system or his nervous system is not just to feel happy and fluffy. The point of doing that is to get to a point where they can have these conversations that are transformative. They must learn the skills to build the experiences that then transform their brain. Because when they have that, now they have a new experience of a person who's not a sociopath.
And this is when it starts to unravel. I guess
Yes.
that's that lie, right? That's like
Yes.
like the matrix unraveling once you figure out and
Yes,
understand.
absolutely. The brain is great at classifications.
Okay.
Up till this point, all humans have been put into the box that says dangerous sociopaths. That's the bear coming to eat me. At this point, the brain creates a second box that says probably okay with a question mark on it. But that's a differentiation in category. Now your brain can begin saying, what makes this group safe and this group not safe? More skills. Okay. So we train more skills into understanding variables in humans and relationships, and then what each group is going to want from you, and how pleasing the sociopath group is going to repel the healthy group, and how pleasing the healthy group will repel the sociopaths. And it does the same thing. Now, as they begin to build deeper relationships and open up more about their experiences, they're received more warmly, and they realize, I don't have to control my speech to the point of death. I can speak and share. So now when they're confronted with a question, they don't, they go, and they think and they breathe, and the other person understands them now. So they can say, hey, that's okay. It's not life or death. Take a moment. Answer me when you can. And that right there releases enough oxytocin to release GABA to suppress
like
cortisol.
Beginning of the little trickle,
Absolutely.
one after the next, after the
Absolutely.
next, and then the whole system reboots.
Absolutely. Complete reboot. And they go, okay.
We should start a program called Attachment Reboot.
Attachment Reboot. And they go, okay, well, okay, if it's really okay, then I'll say this. And they tell you, and the person says, oh, yeah, we can work on that. And the person is floored. Every secure experience is shocking to them, but it redefines a good shocking.
Okay.
But every experience redefines human connection to them over and over and over. I got an email, a great email from a client that I've been working with for about a year. I got an email from her just the other day that said, Adam, I want to update you. I've been traveling around the world. I'm finally spending money on myself. I'm finally enjoying all this stuff I've built that never got to really enjoy because I was so locked up in fear. I finally understand what people want from me and what I'm allowed to want from them. And now I'm looking for a boyfriend, someone who will actually love me. And they had great expectations.
So nice.
Oh, it was a wonderful email. I was blown away by it. But that's the ability to transform on the other side of this. It's not just an end to your pain, because that's the greatest outcome these people have been trained to believe. It's not just an end to my pain. When you fix quiet, disorganized attachment style, it's not about ending your pain. It's about finally finding your joy, finally finding your safety and your intimacy and your connection with the people you actually love. That's the outcome of fixing quiet, disorganized attachment style.
That sounds amazing.
It is.
How long does it take? Years?
You know, they say that a pattern to be fixed takes about 2 months to fix a pattern.
Pattern?
Per pattern.
Okay.
For your brain chemistry and your neurology and your pathways. So fixing the pattern of how you approach other people, there's one. Fixing your shutdown pattern, there's two. Fixing the way you share with other people, whole different story, right? Fixing your relationship in romantic pattern, right? Fixing your family pattern. Each of these takes significant investment. So it takes a while, especially when these people come to me in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. It does take a while. Like I said, I'd been working with that client for about a year. But again, the transformation is not nothing and then 1 year they're good. It's a continuous, joyous growth across that year that they never could have imagined. Most of them, if they're in their 60s and 70s, tell me, Adam, I feel like life is only beginning.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's also something I'm curious about. So let's say somebody is working with you and they're quite disorganized in their relationship.
Mhm.
And as they go through this process of reboot, reset, transformation, repair, what happens to their relationship with their partner if they stick it out?
Well, it depends. If they're one of the rare ones who have a good, loving partner, then their relationship blossoms. It's phenomenal. Their partner experiences a renaissance, a joy of like, that's who you are. I've always wanted to know you. And both of them experience this overwhelming depth of connection. I will say this. There's an old saying that no one wants peace as badly as a soldier does, right?
Mm.
Because they understand the horrors of war. Well, I will say nobody craves secure attachment quite like a disorganized attached style person, because no one experiences the horrors quite like they do. So when they see a pathway to secure connection, they chase it lifelong, obsessively. And that's so fulfilling for both of them. So there is no partner quite like a remade secure partner who once was quite disorganized.
That's amazing. That's wonderful, actually. I think that's supposed to give a lot of people a lot of hope. So not only is this possible, but if you do the work, is it truly probable?
I say this, if you do the work, it is extremely unlikely that you won't achieve secure attachment. If you just
All right.
do the work, you are almost guaranteed this outcome because you're made for it. You're not meant to live in terror all of your life. That's an abnormal state. There is a healthy state everyone is capable of. It's just that you've never known how. It's really a matter of skills and experiences.
So, what are some roadblocks that one could encounter on this transformation that they need to overcome?
Well, first is just the belief that anyone cares about what you have to say at all, right? They were punished for voicing their ideas at all. So when their partner comes out and says, I want to know you. No, you don't. That's the
Mm.
thought inside. No, you don't. That's the thought inside their head, but they don't say it. So they just stare with wide eyes and freeze. All right. It's a disbelief that they have anything of value to offer to anyone besides service. I am a creature of service. I live to serve, and I have nothing worthwhile beyond that. So a full disbelief that they have anything worthwhile inside. Another one is believing that there's any life outside of terror. And a lot of that's their nervous system because they've never experienced it. Even if they like, well, yeah, I guess there's probably a state that's not pain and agony, but I sure haven't felt it. It's getting their nervous system regulated enough that they can say, wow, yeah, I do feel different. And wow, I do control that feeling. I didn't realize that. Sometimes, like I said, they resist actually coming down out of nervous system dysregulation because that was what kept them safe. I have to be stressed out in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. for when my dad kicks in the door screaming at me. Another roadblock they experience is they are just so deeply confused about what people want, but they also are terrified of asking questions. I have to train most of them that it's okay to ask questions. And in fact, that healthy people want you to do it because it's a sign of interest and curiosity. And then I have to give them the exact word for word scripts to use because they've never had these conversations before. It's almost like teaching them a new language. Another one is that they have no idea what their needs are. So when they go to a therapist and the therapist says, tell them what your needs are. What are needs, right? I'm allowed to have these? Well, I don't know how to find them. Finding their needs is even more hard than articulating their needs, to be honest with you. Those are the biggest problems, honestly. And most of them are skill focused, but most of them, if they give up at all, it's because they don't think there's a skill they can learn. There's always a skill to be learned. It's all skills. It's just giving up, believing there's no answer. That's all. That's really the biggest hook.
So it sounds like the key there is that first conversation where you paint a picture where life could be different.
Yeah.
That's the seeing, heaven from hell experience.
Me and my coaches, when we work with somebody, especially like this, what we do is we sit down to a full assessment on not only where are you at now, but how did you get here? Why does your big picture make sense to us? Why are you stuck? In fact, a lot of people come in and say, why am I this way? We like to say, why wouldn't you be this way?
Oh,
Right? Look at your picture. And now let's correct it. Here's what we're going to do. Here are the skill sets that are missing. Here are the experiences you never had and we must build you toward. Here's how that's going to transform your life. Here is your step-by-step procedure.
that's wonderful. And does it take a long time to do that assessment?
It takes one session.
Yeah. That's it?
That is the beginning of our work. Yeah, I know most people are trained to expect therapy is going to take,
Yeah, usually it
months
takes
and
so
months and
longer,
months, and you got to get to know the person
Did you
and 6 months of crying about your childhood on the couch. And no. We don't do that because I don't think that's worthwhile. I think that's damaging. All that does is teach people that there's no hope. We have to get moving quickly. You can learn skills quickly. You can have experiences quickly. I'm not going to say you're going to fix it overnight, right? A lot of our clients do end up renewing again because they want to learn more skills. They reach the end of their first package with us and they say, I want to learn more. Look how good I feel. How much better would I feel if I did this again? Let's learn more. They're excited. They want to keep growing.
Do you ever have people leave because you help them too fast?
I do at times. I certainly do. And those people are so excited that they run out and tell their family and friends about us. So they bring other people in. So we've got a lot of referrals that way.
But do they ever come back?
Oh, they certainly do. Quite often. Maybe a year or two later. We call that a flight toward health.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like, I feel so incredible. I want to go try this out. And they run out the door and they do it and do it and do it. And they don't come back because it didn't fix it. They come back because they find a different problem we didn't address that time.
It's actually funny because PT, physical therapy, has the same trend that a lot of people, let's say they're signed up for, like, hey, let's get you on your feet and say you got an injury, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they say, I'm fixed. I go, well, be careful. And they go out into the gym or they go train again. And they already know they're coming back in about 6 months, just with a different injury.
And I love that analogy. For us, it's not like, oh, I didn't heal that injury, so I have to come back because it didn't work. It's they come back and say, well, yeah, we fixed my leg, but man, my arm, it could feel a lot better. Let's get this going. And then it's, well, now my back, now my neck. And by the time they've worked with us a few times through a couple sets, they're living at this level of life. They're excited. They're enjoying it. They enjoy waking up every day and they love their relationships. It's no longer living in terror. It's what can I do today that will fulfill me? Whole different life.
So I'm curious, is it possible to do that assessment just on its own, or do you have to do it as part of that big, big program?
We do have that session on its own, and we usually pair it with a relationship strategist as well, so that you can do the assessment and then understand where to go next. A lot of people, though, they love the assessment so much when they come in and do it that they end up wanting to work with us immediately after because they're so excited to get started.
That's kind of awesome. Is there a place we can go check it out?
Absolutely. AdamLaneSmith.com is the website. Everything is available through there. You can message us. In fact, I recommend people go to the website and then just message us and just talk straight to us. We have the answers and we will find you the best fit.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you, Adam. I mean, this is a great conversation we've had, especially from a practical standpoint. For those of you who maybe know a quiet disorganized person, just recognize this. They're not going to do anything about it, most likely. So if you can give them a semblance of hope that life could be different, I'm sure they will spring at it. Maybe not even right away. But if you don't do that and you let them stay in that darkness, you're abandoning them just like everybody else did. And that's probably the hardest truth that they are struggling with and probably will never be able to fully express, is how many people chose to walk away on them when they were afraid, alone, and scared. So not to put any pressure on you, but to also put any pressure on you. It is, I think, truly everybody's responsibility to help people who are in that level of pain and darkness to understand that there is a possibility to be different. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and, jump right into coaching or therapy or whatnot. Just the hope and the fact that a different reality is possible. I think that's just the foundation of human kindness.
Yeah. Hope is everything.
Yeah. And for that, just even share this podcast episode with them. I mean, we covered so much. We covered so much in terms of symptoms, in terms of causes, in terms of transformations, in terms of relationship diagnostics, assessments, discussions. All of this is in here. And I mean, 50 minutes of time or whatever this is enough to change somebody's life. So at least do that. And if you are feeling this way, what's the biggest takeaway that you wish somebody who's quite disorganized or suspect they're quite disorganized would have from this episode, Adam?
Oh, man. In this episode, I hope that you learned 3 things. 1, I hope you've understood how these attachment patterns function. I hope you've understood how they impact you personally or the people that you love. And I hope that you draw hope from this, that things can get better and that you can have secure relationships.
Let's do this, Adam. So if you are quite disorganized and you've heard this episode and you got into this point and you still don't know what to do, just either drop us a DM on Instagram, drop us an email at support@AdamLaneSmith, or just drop a comment below and just to see how many other people are in your same situation. Just say, I need some help. I need some more information. I'd love to learn more. Or even just say quiet disorganized. Any of those are totally fine. Put up a flag. And then we will reach out to you and we'll at least start the conversation on what is possible here. Doesn't come with any obligations, doesn't come with anything. But the fact is that this is not going to get better until we work on it, unfortunately, is evident. So we invite you to do that. For everybody else, please like, subscribe, and share, because this is so important for those people who are living with this type of attachment. with this style, with this level of pain, with this level of discomfort, with this level of fear, we can definitely help them, and you can as well. So please share this episode, bring attention to this matter. This is definitely one of the newest and hottest things in mental health. So if you care about mental health, then this is something to really watch and really support. And in the meantime, bring your friends, and we'll see you in the next episode of I Wish You Knew. Thank you.